So what did you miss at Jubilee today? Well, what did you miss? You missed far more people than I thought. I don't know, they were tired. They'd missed an hour's sleep, but my goodness, they made it. And all of our council and executive were visiting our friends at St. John's United Church today. So I assumed we'd be small in number, but we may have been a little diminished. March break, loss of sleep, and folks visiting, but we were a robust congregation today, which I suppose works well with the story of Nicodemus that we looked at today. Nicodemus was a Pharisee. He was educated, established, and drawn to Jesus. And in our congregation, our community, we are, by and large, educated, certainly by first century standards. We are educated, we are established, again, by first century standards. We may not like the spot we've established for ourselves, but most of us are established and drawn to Jesus. Drawn to Jesus because on a morning when it would have been easy to stay home and make up that extra hour, people came. And we listened intently to the stories. And we heard Jesus tell Nicodemus that he needed to be born from above or born again, as we often hear. And so being good United Church folk, we wondered about what that meant, because born again is a concept that we have shied away from in the past. Most of us have had friends who could tell you on the exact day and hour that they were born again, that they welcomed Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior into their hearts. And that's not the way that we talk. And so sometimes when we hear these passages, we just cover our ears or pretend that it's something else. So today we wondered, what does it mean to be born again? Are they right? Do we have to have a day and an hour that we can write down and say this was the moment? Or is there something else happening? So we listened to what Jesus said. And Jesus told the story of Moses and the Israelites, and they were being bitten by snakes, and God told Moses to put a bronze snake on a stick and put it high in the air. And we wonder, what was that about? Well, at the very least, it's about looking up. In the Gospel, John is no doubt trying to make us think about Jesus raised on the cross in that story. But again, our simple response to Jesus on the cross is to look up. So if being born of heaven, being born again, is about being born in a spiritual sense, connecting, being spiritual as opposed to simply physical or mental or emotional, but tapping into our spiritual side to become part of the kingdom of heaven that is here right now. If that's the beginning of spirituality, then perhaps the first step is simply looking up. Looking up and away. Away from our navels, away from our own lives, but looking up and away and being amazed at the incredible fabric of our universe. Watching the clouds as they move through the sky. Listening to the birds. Seeing people and realizing that we are connected to all of it. And to take some time to be amazed at creation. Just to breathe and watch and let go of our own agendas, our own problems. The beginning of spirituality, the beginning of being born of the Spirit, born from above, born again, is to get out of ourselves and recognize that we are wonderfully made and wonderfully part of creation and wonderfully connected to God through all of this. We don't actually run the universe. It doesn't sit on our shoulders. The universe doesn't spin around us, but in fact moves through us and invites us God invites us to recognize the core of our faith, that in Jesus we recognize that the human and the divine, that all creation comes together. And in that realization, that perspective, that lens by which we can look at the world, we begin to be born again. So that's the kind of stuff that we talked about. Oh, and we had fabulous music, and we had some terrific people. And the only thing we were really missing was you. And so we hope we get to see you sooner than later. But until we do, take some time to look up, look at the world around you in awe, release your spiritual self, and recognize that in that moment, you indeed are born of heaven. You were born again. Until we see you, God bless.